Welcome to the Get Real Podcast, your high-octane boost of full-on reality therapy for personal, business, and investing success with your host, Ron Phillips, because somebody's got to tell it like it is.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Real Podcast. Ron Phillips here. Today, I want to talk about something very similar to politics. As we all know, the media and the government would have us think that politics is incredibly polarized, right? But I think that only is really polarized on social media, in the media, and with politicians. I think the rest of us aren't polarized really that much at all. We pretty much all agree on most things. Maybe we disagree on how to solve some problems, but I mean, I just don't think we're that far apart. At least with the people that I talk to, even the people I disagree with, I don't think we're that polarized. I think certain interests would like us to be, because it sells clicks, and that's the point of today. Like, I have been looking, as I do on social media, at posts from folks, which I find hysterical. There's this polarized thing that is happening in the real estate world, and it's not unlike what happens with the politics. So I see all these posts. Let's run through some of these, because I think, and this happens on both sides. There's these two sides, right? And one of them is that the market's going to go insane and prices are going to go through the roof. And then the other side is that everything is going to hell in a handbasket, and it doesn't matter what anybody does. I mean, you should just really, really run away from real estate, because it's going to crash. Let's talk about the first one here. You see, I'm sure that you've seen, just like me, I'm sure that you have seen the posts about foreclosure activity. And I've told you this before, but I'll mention it again. I think every one of these posts that shows a graph and starts talking about something in terms of percentage increase to a time period, we should not only look at that time period, look at what the actual number of increase was and make sure that it's statistically important. Because if we had a really low number before and it went up 50%, it's still a really low number. It's not that big of a deal. And then go back in history and let's compare it to something else. So this post was about 2020 to 2025, what's happening with foreclosure activity. Foreclosure activity has gone up. Now, if you look at a chart from 2020 to 2025, it looks pretty bad. I mean, it would scare anybody who actually doesn't look at the rest of the data, because in 2020, just like 2020, 2021, like it's just not that many. I mean, on the chart I'm looking at, it doesn't even hit 20% of 100,000. So it's like 20,000 foreclosure filings, which is almost none for the nation. This is national numbers. And then in 2025, it's almost 100,000. And so that kind of an increase, I mean, that's a big increase, right? Now, I want to compare a couple of things. If you look from 2025 backwards toward 2005 versus looking at 2005, looking towards 2025, I want you to imagine a graph. Okay, this is a bar chart graph. And I'm going to try to make this so that you guys can understand. The first time I flew into Denver, Colorado, the pictures I've seen of Colorado and the mountains, I mean, the mountains are beautiful. So when I flew into Colorado, I expected to see really cool mountains. Okay. Imagine my dismay when I flew into Colorado. I hit the airport and there's nothing. It's flat. You can't really see the mountains. I almost thought I landed in Kansas. Okay. If I'm in 2025 and I'm looking towards 2005, it's like landing at Denver Airport trying to find the mountain. It is out there. There is a peak, but I can't see it because foreclosure filings have been pretty low for a long time. And it gradually increases almost imperceptibly to a pretty high peak. Okay. That peak is in 2009, it looks like, at around 550,000. Now remember, 2025, we're sub 100,000. 2009, we're at like 550,000. Okay. And these are per quarter, I believe, the chart I'm looking at. So that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of foreclosures. Now, if I look 2005 and I'm looking toward 2025, the contrast is this. I don't know if you've ever flown into and landed in Salt Lake City Airport, because it is remarkably different. Because when you land there and you exit the airport, the mountains are in your face. They come straight out of the ground and go up. You don't have to look off too far in the distance. They're right there. In 2005, we start at just over 100,000. And by 2009, we're at 550,000. Okay? It takes 4 years to get to 500. So the magnitude of that climb is pretty steep. And it's interesting to note that from 2005 until it looks like about 2017, maybe 2015. No. It's way after 2015. It's got to be like 2017. It was above 100,000 the whole time. And then it barely, after 2017, it barely drops below 100,000 until just after 2020, when it drops down to 20,000. And then it hovers there for just a little while, not very long, before it pops right back up to where I think normal equilibrium kind of is, just under 100,000. So again, this is a nothing burger. It's not that big of a deal, because if you compare it to what everyone is trying to compare this to, it's not even close to the same. I mean, it's not even in the same league. So there's one for you. And closely related to this one, I think the foreclosure filing one, is this one that I've seen most recently, which is mortgage rate breakdown percentage, existing mortgage holders from 2013 to 2025. And this is a percentage of mortgages below 3% and above 6%. Okay, so understand, everything between 3 and 6% is not even counted in this. We're counting sub 3% and north of 6%. Okay. Now, the purpose of showing this graph is that it makes an X, and it shows that back in 2013, 32% of the mortgages were north of 6%. Okay. And then only 2.4% were below 3%, which of course that's true, people, because the interest rates you couldn't get a loan for that. Okay. The sub 3% mortgages happened somewhere around 2019. I mean, you could get them, but the real spike in the percentage of those started in 2020, and it shot straight up. And they became 24.6% of all mortgages were sub 3%. And exactly what you would expect from 20 until 2022, well, the 6% mortgages went from 32% down to 7.3%, because the only people who had mortgages above 6% couldn't refinance because of their credit or whatever, right? Everyone else refinanced. Not everybody else got a sub 3% mortgage. However, some of them got a 3.5, some of them got a 4, right? So again, this is just sub 3% mortgages. Now, the point of this is that from 2022 through today, that the sub 3% mortgages went from 24.6 to 20.4. So they lost about 4 percentage points. Now, the big, huge takeaway from this, guys, is holy crap, people who have sub 3% mortgages are actually selling their houses, which we didn't think would happen. And because they've started to sell some of their houses, all hell's going to break loose because those people weren't supposed to sell their houses. And because they're selling their houses, now we're going to have more inventory on the market. So house prices are going to go down, which is absurd if that's the only point you look at. House prices have gone down. So it's not absurd to think that they were, but it's absurd to point this as a reason why they went down. Because I am one of those people, okay? I had a 2.7% mortgage. I no longer have that mortgage. But I didn't put a house on the market. And in addition to that, I'm not in trouble. So neither of the things that anybody is supposing off of this chart, I'm not part of either one of those categories. And there's probably a lot of other people who aren't. And I think the other people who, this 4% who actually sold these, probably had enough equity in their house. They were like, crap, I really need to get this equity so that I can go buy the house I really want. And if I got to get a 6.5% mortgage to do it, then so be it. I'll go ahead and go do that. Now, not shockingly, the north of 6% mortgages went from 7.3 to almost 20% during that same time frame. And I don't think this chart really shocks anybody. I mean, if you were buying a house or refinancing from 2022 on, you're going to have north of a 6% mortgage because that's where mortgage rates were. I mean, it's just, I don't understand why anyone would point anything out on this chart. It's hilarious. And on this chart, what is missing entirely are the mortgages that are between 3 and 4%, which are still insanely low. And the ones from 4 to 5%, which are also insanely low historically. And if you add all those in, well, those are just south of 80% of all mortgages, and they went down 4%. Big deal. I don't understand. But then you have the other side, which is also funny. The NAR posts is, I guess it's a contrast between renters and homeowners and their net worth. Now, fair point. I think just in general, not 100% accurate, but in general, renters have a lower net worth because most people's largest asset is their home. So I think that also doesn't shock anybody. Okay. But the NAR is like, hey, you should go buy a house because of this. And what they're saying is 2019, 2022, and 2025, they're going to do a comparison each one of those years. Renters, 2019, 7,300, 2022, 10,400, 2025, 10,000. So it went down from 2022 to 2025. That shouldn't have happened, but it did. Went down $400. Homeowners had in 2019, 295,500. That's a huge stark difference. 2022, 396. And in 2025, 430,000. I do think it's interesting which years they picked, however, because if they had picked all of the years from 2019 to 2025, it probably would have shown that between 2024 and 2025, there was a little bit of a loss potentially on the houses too. I mean, it still would have shown a sizable difference, but I think they cherry picked what they wanted to show, just like the other ones cherry picked what they wanted to show. There's some other things on here that are missing. There's no age bracket on here. I just find it funny when you post something like this, that like this is just the data. Well, there's a whole lot of data missing from this. And it makes it so that I don't understand whether this is a fair comparison or it's not a fair comparison. I think the point is a solid point. People who own a house typically have a higher net worth because, well, the asset goes up in value. I've been saying that forever. What's your point, NAR? That people should go buy a house right now because it's going to go up X percent. Nobody knows that, how much it's going to go up. I think over time, everybody knows it's going to go up. Is it going to go up like it did from 2022 to 2025? I don't know. I mean, it's sort of looking like it's not. And depending on what market you're in, it most assuredly won't. Not in that time frame. But over time, the NAR is right. It will go up. And owning a house, I think personally, makes way more sense than renting for most people who want to increase their net worth. I could go on. There are so many of these. It's hysterical. I want everybody to remember something I've said many, many times. And I think in the next podcast, we're going to talk about affordability. And that is that on every one of these posts that shows something striking, ask the questions, what is the information that's missing here that's pertinent to whatever the point is that we're trying to make? Go look at historical data and inform yourself about what's going on. I don't think either side is 100% right. I think the probably the logical answer that's most likely to happen lies somewhere in between there. So bomb throwers on either side, I don't think they're right. Either side. I mean, I think if you 100% believe the NAR and you don't look at any other data, you're silly. I think if you look at the people who have been calling for a 2008 style collapse since 2018, well, you're also silly. Somewhere in the middle is the truth. Look for the truth. And then understand that none of these people are Nostradamus and they don't know. I'm sitting here today. I went through the other crash. I've been in real estate since 1999. This is a weird market. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I have my opinions about what's going to happen, but there are so many levers to this that I don't think anybody knows exactly what's going to happen with the real estate market. But here's what I do know. Over time, real estate outperforms every other asset class. Buy it right, use good fundamentals. Even the people who are saying that the market is going to potentially collapse are still buying because they're buying on fundamentals that produce returns no matter what happens to the appreciation of the property. And on that happy note, till next week, get out there and make something happen.
This has been the Get Real Podcast. To subscribe and for more information, including a list of all episodes, go to getrealestatesuccess.com.